Hi, and welcome to Coach's Corner, where systems matter and both personal and professional learning and development is beneficial for everyone and essential for some. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, we're joined with Brett Zandis, or better known as Coach Little Z23. Today we're going to talk about another section of the sales. And so, like I said in the last video, it's had multiple years of selling and doing that, and it's crazy to think that one person can do so much in a lifetime. You know, we see it and different things like that, but when you really break it down and you talk about it, to think about how he's been a student, an athlete, a coach, a salesman, a employee, an employer. I mean, when you just break it down like that, it's amazing to see how much you've done, and it makes sense why you're able to talk on so much subjects and give such great insight to the people that are, trying to learn about those different things. And it's, you're only 52. I mean, to think that there's another 40 years of things that you can still accomplish and still learn and still do and talk about is really special. And it, I feel blessed to be able to be in this position to talk to you about it and pick your brain on that. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And so, as we move on and talk different things about that, whether that's coaching or being an employee or employer, it'll be fun to do that. But, further ado, we'll talk about sales again.
I'm the Dos Equis guy.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Or a maven. Look that up sometime, maven in the
Uh-huh.
dictionary. I think that's what I am.
Got it.
I'll go and figure out, whatever.
Yeah.
If somebody in my family were to get cancer,
Yeah.
I would go and be better than most people that were an expert in cancer about
Right,
it. Yeah, because I'll just dig and and then I'll start systematizing and put it together and da-da-da. Okay, this is what we have to do,
Yeah.
And I think that's what a maven does.
Got it. Yeah, I'll have to look that up for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So, before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to, talk to the audience about or say before, like I said, we get started?
Yeah, just thanks for the introduction. I do hope that it finds the people well. I think it's interesting, you being my son.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of talks, a lot of road trips.
Yeah.
5 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours, out of whack, flying all across the nation and different things. So I think it's interesting, and I think it'll be more interesting when, in 7 years, like when you're 30, your perspective on how this is all kind of coming together. Because I think you're, looking at me and going like, that's interesting, something I never thought about when I'm 16, 17, 18.
Right.
And I think we've talked about that too, as an analogy. Jesus can't be a prophet in his hometown.
Right.
And so you're like, oh, that's just my dad, right? So if you're Emmett Smith, they're like, oh, that's just my dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he's kind of one of the best, running backs in the history of the world.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying I'm that, but I'm saying that I do have some things to offer people, and I'm hoping that, that it finds them well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, starting with overall questions, and so this first one, not including yourself.
Yeah.
But what do you think is worse for most people, not hitting the quota or having an unhappy client?
Oh, God, what a great question. I would hope that, it would bother them to have an unhappy client first. I always look at it and say, if you help enough clients or customers, then the money will always follow.
Right.
But unfortunately, I think in today's society, it's probably the other way around.
Yeah.
And then I would actually ask you in the same way. Are you technically a millennial, or?
I think I'm either on the tail end of when it started, I'm either at the beginning stages or the tail end, which is what I think I am of Generation Z.
Okay, but let me ask you that, both with the Zers and the millennials, like that kind of group.
Yeah.
If I asked you the exact same question, because I don't think I'd be able to answer that as well as maybe you could, or people more. Seems like it's more about self and self-driven and all that. Did you hear about the Cam Newton thing?
Yeah, the kid.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, this guy's out here volunteering. And I don't know the full story, but it sounded like Cam handled it pretty darn well.
Yeah.
In the end, and it was like, gosh, dang. So, but I would ask that question back to you.
Well,
twice over and stick back to you. What was that little saying? When you're a
Yeah.
little kid or whatever. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, not to cause any controversy, but I think it has to do a lot on how you were raised.
Oh,
And
okay.
how you were brought up, and so I won't get into the details, but I think that has a lot to do with it.
okay. So, but I think you would also say, I'm just guessing here, speculating, that most people in your generation and the millennials were raised where it was more about self and money
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably in my generation too,
Mhm.
but I think even more so in those
Yeah.
two generations. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
who really knows? But I like your answer. I think, there's some genetics,
Yeah.
right? We talked about this. Who are you at this point right now? A collection of genetics and the
Right.
DNA, the experiences, the circumstances, the environment, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I think that's probably a good assessment.
Yeah.
You want to switch roles here?
Yeah, switch roles. Well, no, because this next question I would have no clue. So,
He's like,
yeah.
I voted for Carlos.
So let's say that, this guy, Rob. No offense to Robs out there.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
Deer Dork. What's his name?
Deer Deck.
Deerdeck.
Yep.
Sorry, Rob Deerdeck.
So you called him.
Yes.
And you set up a time for Tuesday.
Yes.
And then he gets back and says, hey, I can't make it on Tuesday. Can we reschedule?
Yes.
And then, we reschedule for Thursday.
Yes.
And then you reschedules again.
Yes.
And then by the fourth or fifth time. So, in other words, is there a time where you just stop pursuing the client?
Sure. But I do think there's a telltale sign. If they call you,
Yeah.
usually that means they're still interested.
Okay.
Now, also, that being said, remember, most people don't know how to say no.
Right.
And they do long maybes.
Yeah.
So they may like you or respect you, especially if it's somebody you know. And even if not, and they don't know how to say no, so they do these things. They push you off.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting one for me. But typically, they're blowing you off if you have to contact them.
Okay.
Then that's an automatic where they don't know how to tell you no.
No.
They're not mature enough to just say no and because they're pleasers or different things of
Yeah.
that nature. But if they call you the first couple times, it could be legit. And that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably by the fourth time, first of all, for me, I don't have the patience level of that.
Yeah.
So, for sure by the second or third time, I'll be like, look,
Right.
are you trying to give me a long maybe, which is really a no?
Right. Or,
Because I'm cool with no's. I'm not cool with long maybes.
Yeah.
So if you're really trying to reschedule because you really want to sit down, then great.
Yeah.
But if you're just kind of whatever, just let me move on. It's actually better for me. So, I think that if you tell people that, I said earlier, I said that to a guy, you won't call back. He's like, oh, no, he didn't call back.
Yeah.
Right? So I think a lot of it has to do with, kind of how you set it up and what's your tolerance level. So my wife would say to you guys, 5 times. Now, if you do that, I'm going to give you a spank. And I just would look at you and be like, the spank is coming.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's a lot of it depends on the salesperson themselves.
Right.
But I think all those are factors involved.
Yeah. And so this next question is kind of an oxymoron to me. So as a
Isn't life, right?
Yeah. So as a self-employed independent contractor,
Yeah.
in the word itself, you're self-employed,
Yeah.
but you're also working on the team.
Yeah.
So how does that dynamic work out?
Well, technically, by the legal law, and they've changed it a lot lately, even more so. You can talk to them and ask them about different things, but you can't force them to do it or punish them if they don't.
Okay.
So like we used to have in the other company, we used to have our gatherings, which is like a meeting or a training, but we used to do them too. We do the VIPs. For the best in the business who are already in the business, as well as the people that we were, wanting to check out the business. We would do Monday morning at 9, and then we would do a Tuesday for the part-timers at night.
Okay.
So a Tuesday evening. But in the end, they're self-employed independent contractors. They can do what they want. They can come and go as they want. They can, and there's a lot of other laws. I don't want to get into it because I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
But in the end, there's parameters that are basically no parameters. They do what they want, when they want, how they want.
Yeah.
But if you're providing a meeting and they want to come, then that's their choice.
Yeah.
So I think, it's like what we used to say about in PE. So you couldn't corporal punish. So my dad was a PE teacher. and you could corporal punish, meaning you could have them do something physical. They call it corporal punishment.
Yeah.
I think it came from, the armed services.
Right.
Drop down and give me 50, right? Or whatever. So you couldn't do that when I was teaching, but you could with my dad.
Yeah.
Believe me, I had to do a lot of push-ups in school because I was being a donkey.
Yeah.
But what we used to do is we would say, hey, you have a choice. You can either go and run a lap or give me 50 or whatever, or I will call your mom.
Right.
I don't care which one you choose. That's your choice. So then they were choosing usually to go walk the lap or do whatever. And it would be the same thing as a self-employed independent contractor. Technically, they would have the choice to show or not.
Got it. And this is not a question that I had thought of, or originally, but thought of right now. When it comes to NFL players, NBA players, MLB players, they're not really self-employed independent contractors, but they kind of are, right, in a way, because they can move from place to place. Or how would you classify them?
That's a great question. I don't know officially, but I would think they're an employee of that, and they have a contract.
Right.
And just like anybody else could breach a contract. So if I have a contract for a year to be the CEO of a, Fortune 500 company or whatever, and I could breach that contract, which means they could get legal.
Yeah.
Right? Or they could fire me and not pay me, and that could get legal.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, I'm still an employee of theirs.
Right.
So I think you may be mixing up a little bit of free agency versus self-employed independent contractor. They seem like they're similar, but they're really not. It's just that contract is either up, or like in Deshaun Watson's case, he just may not honor the contract.
Yeah. And
he may run the risk of being sued, or he's going to for sure run the risk of he ain't going to get paid. Yeah. Because, they'll break it down. By the way, on a sidebar, we used to talk about Roger Clemens. He was one of the highest paid guys at the time. So, they only play once every 4 days, right? Or, the rotation of 5 days. Yeah. And we were figuring out he was making $80,000 a pitch.
Right, they did that for LeBron, with his new contract.
Oh, did they? What was it?
It was for every minute that he plays, it was $12,000.
Yeah, right.
Geez.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's a great question. I don't like not knowing the answer to that, because I would think I'd be smarter than that. But I don't want to say something that's not going to be correct. Yeah. But I would imagine those are employees. It's kind of weird.
Weird, yeah. Okay, which is what I thought. I just thought of that because as I'm looking around your man cave and see all these sports things.
No, it's great. It's a great comment too, because I'm like, is free agency, you want to put it with freelancer, which is a self-employed independent contract. Right. But it's I don't think so. I think that they're just employees that get paid a boatload of money.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to motivation, did you ever lose motivation when you were in the sales business? And then did you have to, get it back, or was that when you're just you know what, I'm done and I'm going to move on and go somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't think that I lost motivation, but I maybe lost the love for it, or the like for it, or it just was I like it okay, but it's just not really where I'd want to be.
Yeah.
Right? I'm good at troubleshooting. Mm-hmm. So when I had 223 employees, or when I was working with the largest nonprofit who had 2,000 employees, I loved that.
Yeah.
Because, I could say, man, I could work with this person and I could see growth, not just in them, but their 30 kids.
Right.
I was just listening to, we're getting some stuff together for, the end of these videos. And, it's too bad that we weren't able to film everything, because there was a lot of great stuff. But I was looking through some old stuff that we happened to film.
Yeah.
And they were saying some great things on, so we're there to train them professionally, but they would say personally and professionally. This helped me in my personal life. It helped me with my own kids. It that whole pebble in the water approach. And I thought, man, that is so cool in the end. And so I think that for me, selling was good and it was fun. But to me, where I'm at my best is show me a trouble.
Right.
And let me help you to beat it. And we're not going to just beat it. We're going to annihilate it.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy whatever that trouble is. and we're going to turn, as we talked about, that lemon into lemonade, and it'll be the best. Ooh, it tastes so good.
Right.
With the nice umbrella and the straw. Go find that one somewhere. Right? I love the straw guy.
Like you said, you're always there to help people.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And eventually, and maybe not, but eventually there's probably a time where it's like, I gotta let you go, or this is no longer gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Which one sucks, obviously more so for you because, your passion for helping people.
Yeah.
But what are some telltale signs for the people that, might be in that same situation? They're just like, man, I'm beating my head against this wall to help this person.
Yeah, that's tough. So, to this point, I've only given up on one person.
Yeah.
I've had some give up on me, right? But I've only given up on one person. And, I say I'm practical and pragmatic beyond all else, right? And that's why Jesus is real simple to me, whereas others go, there's no such thing. I'm like, hey, good luck to you on that, but whatever. And not to judge, but just it just doesn't make. Jesus is 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
And so I worked with this person for 18 months very intensively, and she was. So I would say I was upper management, and she was middle management.
Yeah.
If we run a correlation with the school district, after school and business, and I worked with her pretty hard for 18 months. And 18 months in, I shook her hand. I said, good luck to you. I'm not the one for you. And so I looked at it more like, instead of me giving up on her, I just said, I'm not the one for you. Right. I can't help you. And I learned then, and I've said this to you before, the mentee chooses the mentor, not the other way around.
Right.
And I think she was unmentorable, if that's a word. I don't care who it was. Unless it was Jesus, then of course, But even him would have been like,
at 17 months, like, I can't believe I got that done.
Yeah, he's like, well, Brett, you get another jewel in your crown because I wanted to choke her out, or you know what I mean. She was tough. She was a knucklehead actually, but I think that in the end, and then I think if you have a big heart and you care for people, you go a little bit longer. Yeah. But I think I knew sooner than that. Yeah. Just like we were talking in the previous one with the company that I left. After I left teaching, I was like, there's some things that are kind of shady there. Yeah. And so I had left in my mind probably 5 or 7 months before I actually walked out the door. Yeah.
Yeah. And, to go back to what you brought up before about that, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Said in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's something there, like in the blink of an eye, like this isn't going to work, but you still try? Or do you think it's more like, no, after a couple months of working, then you know? I think
it can be both and.
Okay.
I think sometimes we know and we force it to try to work. Yeah. We've talked about those quadrants before. Yeah. The quadrant 3 years, that I want to, I think those guys are tough. But they have so much talent. Low motivation, high talent. That's quadrant 3. You can find that on another one of the videos. But quadrant 1 is low motivation, low talent. Mm-hmm. Quadrant 2 type people is very high in motivation, low in talent. Quadrant 3 are the ones that drive everybody nuts because they're super high in talent and then they're low motivation. And then, of course, you have the rare unicorn, highly motivated and highly talented. And so I think that, with the quadrant 3ers, I think those are the ones where you spend that extra time that you probably shouldn't spend. Because in that blink of an eye, you probably know. Right. Yeah. Or, like you said, even if it's 3 weeks later, whether it's a blink of an eye or 3 to 5 weeks, you're going to spend the extra time with them because you see so much in them.
Right.
And one more thing on that. And for me, whether you were a 1, 2, 3, or 4, I always saw people and continue to see people more than what they think they are. So for me, I would always want to hang on too long anyway. Yeah. But in a lot of cases, they would go to whatever you said, right? Mm-hmm. Have you heard the 7 Cal wife story before?
I feel like I have, but
this is a great story. If you don't mind, I'll tell the audience. It kind of fits into this.
Okay.
So over in whatever country, how you married you got a wife is you had to give a certain amount of cows, and you would go to their dad and say, I want your daughter. And so 7 cows was like, dude, unheard of. it's $1 billion, $1 trillion, right? Like
Yeah.
3 cows was like, oh my gosh, she must have been, the most beautiful model, Cheryl Ladd of the.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who that is, but the older people will. But I don't know who the good-looking models are now. But
Yeah.
whatever the young, like a 3. So there was the most homely-looking chick, ugly, grumpy, just everything about her was just yuck.
Yeah.
And the guy went and gave the dad seven cows.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole village was laughing. Ah, you're an idiot, 7 cows. You could have got her for a half a cow. You could have got her from what do they call them, a teat?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You could have just cut off the teat and, you didn't have to give her a cow. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So anyway, so he gives 7 cows for this gal.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they go away. And so like a year later, he's having a party, the guy that gave the, right? And this gal's walking down the steps. It's got a castle mansion. Yeah. I mean, the most beautiful thing you've ever. Like, I'm getting chills even thinking about it.
Yeah.
The most angelic looking gal, and everybody's like in the town, like, who the heck is that?
Right.
Like who? Like, good. He got rid of that other gal and whatever. And as she got closer, it was her.
Uh-huh.
So, in other words, for me, that's how I see people.
Yeah.
I see him as a 7 cow person,
right?
Or like my fullback. It was so funny when I was teaching football. I go, "Hey, you're a fullback." He goes, "What's a fullback?" Yeah. And he just was one of those guys that would just knock you over. He just, truck you, and he wouldn't even know what was happening. Yeah. And so when I told him, he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm a fullback." Yeah. So a lot of times people don't see that they're a 7 cow. Or we talked about the gal that was dancing. Mm-hmm. At our after-school program, and we got a guy on a fluke talked about, underpriced stuff and all that. Yeah. And he was a choreographer for down south, and he did movies and all that. And when we saw her dance, and she says, "I didn't know I was a dancer." Yeah. That's how I see people. Right. And then I'm going to help you to get there, and so you can see yourself there.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotcha.
If you need to contact Brett or Coach, please do so on his social media accounts, email, and or text. You can find that information in the description below. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and we hope you enjoyed.
Underneath this particular situation, I will always wear at least shorts.